Tony Blair has told Sky News that Theresa May's Brexit deal won't get the support of MPs and urged her to change course. Mr Blair said some of the people in her coalition were unreasonable, and the former Prime Minister admitted he felt very sympathetic to the situation she's found herself in. He's been speaking to our Deputy Political Editor, Beth Rigby, who began by asking whether a second referendum would further divide the country.
I think we've had 30 months of negotiation. There is no real consensus as to what form of Brexit people want, and the deal that the Prime Minister's finally concluded with Europe is a deal that no one really wants. So I think the logical thing is to go back to the people and say, you're going to have to give us direction, because Parliament can't agree on what form of Brexit, and it's clear that as a result of this negotiation, our knowledge of what Brexit really means has been vastly enlarged. I think the odd thing with the decision of this magnitude is not, once you go through the process of negotiation, to go back at the end and have a final think about it.
You said in your speech in the Q&A after that getting through the Brexit impasse would take real leadership. Mrs May doesn't have it, does she? She hasn't got what it takes.
Well, she could do. I mean, if she wanted to lead right now, she would realise that her deal's not going to get through. She needs to construct a process in Parliament where you go through the options. I mean, there are any number of different Brexit options. I mean, three, principally, really. That's a Brexit that's softer than her Brexit, which is the sort of what people call the Norway option. That's a Brexit that's harder than her deal, which is the so-called Canada option. Or there's her deal. Okay, if Parliament votes on all of those three, and there's not a majority in Parliament for any of them, it's got to decide whether to have a referendum.
And you also said that you knew, as a Prime Minister, former Prime Minister yourself, you knew that she wouldn't get any further concessions at the European Council this week. Did she lie to her MPs to save her job? No,
I don't think so. I think she told them what she wanted, but I can't believe that she could ever have thought she would get it, because the whole point about this Irish backstop is that originally it was Britain that said we've got to have a frictionless border between North and South of Ireland. The truth is the only way of maintaining a frictionless border for trading purposes is if you remain part of the trading system of Europe.
She was trying to save her skin.
Yeah, but you know, there's a better way of saving it.
Well, she survived a confidence vote and now she's in office for another year, so I think she would tick that off as a win, wouldn't she?
Yeah, maybe she would, but she's still got the big problem of how she gets Brexit through, and that's why I say the sensible thing for her to do is to realise there are divisions in her cabinet, never mind her government, never mind Parliament. So what can she do as Prime Minister? What she can do is facilitate a decision.
Do you feel sorry for her?
I feel very sympathetic to the stress and strain of the job, to the difficulty she finds herself in. I mean, frankly, she has got some very unreasonable people in her own party and in her coalition. But, you know, in the end, I am sympathetic to her, but she's got to realise now she's got to switch course, because if she just carries on in the same vein, she's not going to succeed. But there's no point in her thinking she's just going to batter the MPs. She's going to keep driving at the brick wall and saying, guys, here's the brick wall, and we're going to crash out with no deal. Because the Parliament, in the end, will take the steering wheel off her and avoid the brick wall. So that's why she would be better to steer off the brick wall herself.
Just finally, 80%, 90%, 100%, how likely is a second referendum in your view?
I think it's gone over 50% for the first time. I mean, this percentage is a bit arbitrary, but I think when you analyse it, it's the old Sherlock Holmes thing. When you exclude the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, is the answer. And I don't think it's possible to get any of these other options through Parliament.
If you're Jeremy Corbyn, you're thinking, I don't need to back this people's vote. We are going to have a general election, surely.
I can't see any Tory MPs voting for a general election. I mean, the one thing that would most imperil the Tories in government is to fight a general election with Brexit as an issue, because then you would have people who would vote Labour because they don't like the Conservative position on Brexit. Whereas, you know, frankly, if you took Brexit out of the equation and you were fighting on what I would call normal politics, you know, the economy, law and order and so on, health service. You know, if I was a Tory, I'd feel a lot more confident about fighting that election than I would if you had a general election with Brexit as a dominant issue. This would be nuts for the Tory party to do it.